Hello guys and welcome back to the Motor Recon podcast. I'm your host Adam. I'm joined again today by Rob. What we're going to do today is just look at something that's caught our eye. It actually did catch our eye a few months ago, but we thought we'd just save it for now once we've got a bit more information about it. So it actually is the new Mini, the next generation Mini. So this is not the electric one that's coming out next year. This is a whole other new car that Mini have hinted at the Frankfurt Motor Show this year. So what they're saying is, now the new Mini is going to get smaller again. Smaller like the original Mini, and it'll match similar proportions to that 2001 model that when BMW first made a Mini.
Okay.
Which, to me, I think is a great idea. And they're doing this by purely electrifying the car. Again, another good idea for these small city cars. Initial impressions of it, if that is the renderings that we're looking at, if that is what it's going to look like, I'm not overly sold on it. But again, this is just pure speculation renderings at the minute.
And as he says, well, how often do the renderings of a car actually turn out as to what the car looks like?
No, that is true. What I do suspect it'll be is very similar to the current Mini design, just shrunk.
Yeah, and that being said, that's not a bad thing because the current Mini design does do it. I mean, for all of the issues that it does throw up, such as inside space and everything else, the one thing that you can always say about the current Mini even is the fact that you can certainly see its heritage in it.
Yeah, you can see it. And
it's a Mini, and it looks the same as the originals, and you can tell that those design cues have been carried over.
And they've added the nice little touches like the Union Jack rear brake lights and things like that, just to give it that little British feel. I know it's obviously owned by BMW now, but obviously it's very much a British heritage brand. Obviously we don't know much about this car yet, but the idea of it really did sort of pique our interest, because I'd be tempted, to be fair, if they brought this in, priced it similarish to the Zoe, something like that, 'cause it'd be even smaller, I think, than the Zoe.
Well, I think this is the thing. One of the sort of complaints people often level at Minis is obviously the fact that they're down on practicality compared to their similarly sized sort of competitors quite a lot.
Up on price as well.
And obviously you get very few in optional extras on sort of like the base level type deal.
Yeah.
But with this smaller, sort of dinkier version, it becomes less about internal space. You're not going to get much. It's tiny. I mean,
and
you're not expecting a huge amount of internal space. What you are getting is heaps of style, and I arguably feel as well something that would be very cool in the 21st century.
Yeah, the one thing I do actually like about it, because my granddad's first car was an original Mini, and he used to take a family of 4 plus all your luggage and everything, chuck it in the car, and they could fit it all in and go on like a road trip to Blackpool, which they used to be able to do fine. I do think it'll probably struggle a bit more on the newer one to get that kind of space.
You've got crash structure in,
because you've got actual safety. You've got obviously like more creature comforts, like maybe potentially sat nav or all your other stuff that maybe intrudes on the cabin slightly more. But I think you'll probably get a comfortable 4-seater.
Yeah,
there'll be no middle seat, because they did have 5 people in the car when there was no luggage or anything.
Yeah,
and that was possible. And they did obviously that by mounting the engine the opposite way and sort of doing clever things. Now the electric motors, it says they're going to be electric, but if they can obviously then push the electric motors further forward because they're much smaller than an internal combustion engine.
The only downside I can see is obviously the batteries have to go somewhere.
Yeah, I think it'd be under the floor.
It'll be under the floor, but that does compromise, because if it is small and low, like the original Mini, obviously it will compromise floor space a little bit, so things might get a little bit cramped in the back as far as...
Well, I'm intrigued, because with modern technology now, they're obviously thinking they can do it, and I strongly suspect within the factory there'll be some sort of concepts and
it's
design
more
work
than
going
doable.
on. Yeah,
it's more than doable without question. And now I think electric technology is in a place where you could get a very small and light compared to other electric cars potentially.
Well, here's a thought potentially on this one. Because it's definitely not going to be next year, because the normal new shaped electric Mini is coming out next year.
Yeah.
Do you think they might be waiting until the solid state battery tech is ready? Because solid state batteries are smaller as well.
Yeah, I mean, they may be waiting for better battery technology, or potentially they're just waiting to drop it in a sensible timeline. Maybe they're just thinking there's no needing to absolutely rush this to market.
No, because they know when it does come, it'll be ready for market. It probably will sell
Well, exactly. It'll be a
ridiculously well.
surefire seller because, as you say, you're going to be getting those retro looks and retro styling, and as I said before, unlike say other supercars, for example, people love a Mini.
Yeah.
They always have done, but especially the electric ones, you can drive around central London looking cool as hell, and no one's going to bat an eyelid at you because...
No, you probably get more looks in that than you would in a Ferrari in central London.
Yeah, for sure.
It's
Yeah.
just definitely doing an
Absolutely,
original
yeah.
Mini.
So exactly, yeah, in an original Mini you do. So I think downsizing and providing a very small option isn't a bad idea, to be honest.
No. And that actually did lead us on to sort of a slightly off-topic discussion when we were off mic. What we were thinking is, because me and you are both in a very similar boat where we feel like the cars we've got now, they will last another couple of years comfortably. So we were thinking, obviously, with the car world changing so fast, when we come to potentially change this in 2 years' time, perhaps 3 years' time, would you want to invest a lot of money into a petrol-powered car?
I wouldn't.
No, because that's the sort of thing we're coming at. The way we were going at it, basically, we started having a discussion and thinking, well, hang on a minute, if in 2 years' time you're thinking, right, I'm going to buy a new car, I'm going to spend 20 grand on a new petrol car, that's by the time it comes to the end of its life is realistically going to be worthless if hydrogen or electric or whatever at that time is taking over. Would you want to just spend 1,500 quid or something on a cheap, older petrol car that you can just blast around in? If it breaks, just buy another one. Or would you want to just look at what else you can get maybe in the hybrid or electric market second-hand now?
Well, that's the thing, because what our first option that we're looking at, so essentially we're looking at the options for either if you want to go super cheap, so if you want to just get yourself, a nice little roadster or whatever.
Yeah, something fun, just to
something
see out the
fun.
last bit of petrol you're ever going to drive.
We've got a couple of halfway houses, so if you want to tip your toe into electric technology and see how it works for you, but safe in the knowledge that you do have an internal combustion engine in there as well to back you up. And we've got, right, sod it, I'm going to go straight into the future head first for sensible money.
Yeah, and see what you can get. So none of these cars at all cost over 15 grand.
No.
None of them. So in a world, it is a more realistic option for many people. Even if you're getting it on finance, the monthly costs aren't that expensive. Mm-hmm. Most people in the market would be able to afford it. And also, some of them actually, you'd be quite surprised, maybe quite actually a fun drive. So the first one, we're just going to go straight in. It is the Renault Zoe. We have discussed it before. However, this one, it is second-hand with about, 500 miles on the clock.
It's new.
So it's brand new.
It's brand new.
It is brand new, and you can pick this up for 14,995 from a Renault dealer, obviously, with being that brand new. I suspect ex-demo car.
But do you know, I was genuinely astounded that you could pick one up in such good condition, obviously being a brand new one, for such a good price, frankly.
Yeah, and it is, just under 15 grand. Obviously, with that, you're not getting Tesla levels of performance. You're spending not even probably a quarter of the amount. So you're looking at 84 mile an hour top speed, but again, the speed limit in the UK, as high as it'll go, is 70. So, yeah, realistically, you can do that. A battery range of 186. Not amazing, but...
Not terrible.
No, if you're in central London, you're going to probably... That'll last you 2 weeks, I'd imagine.
Even with me, and I have a relatively long commute, that would last me a fair few days.
Yeah, not bad.
Between charges.
Yeah, it's realistically doable.
It's not a stupidly low range that would put you under a huge amount of anxiety unless you're going quite a distance. And even then, obviously now we're at a stage in the UK where if you're travelling a long distance, you will be able to charge up at a service station.
Yeah, it might take you a while, but
you can do it.
It's
doable. We live in a rural town and we now have charging points on the high street for electric cars.
Yeah.
So it's becoming very doable now.
Very doable. Very doable. And honestly, for 15 grand, fair enough, you're not going to get the absolute word in luxury. No one's expecting that. It is just a Renault.
Didn't look bad.
No, it's got a similar interior to the Clio, to be fair, other than the fact that it's obviously not got a gear stick. Well, it has kind of, but not a proper one.
Had cruise control?
Yeah, cruise control. It's got your touch screen in the middle with a few other bits and bobs that you might need. I suspect it might have something like Apple CarPlay, or potentially not. That might be an optional extra on some of the cars. But yeah, it's pretty much a Renault Clio interior. Some like it, some don't. But for 15 grand, entry-level electric car, I don't see an issue with
And
that.
again, you are stepping into the future with that, as in you've decided to take both feet and firmly go, I believe this is where the market is going.
Yeah.
I'm going to invest 15 grand in this.
Yeah, which, to be fair, if it comes to it, it may well hold up its value slightly better than a petrol equivalent if the market does go that way fairly soon.
Yeah.
But I wouldn't hold your breath on that. But it's only 15 grand anyway. Another option we did actually look at, bit more of your badge snobbery going on here. But this is 15 grand and it is a few years older, but it's a BMW i3. So it's 2015, this one.
Yeah.
Which, not...
But
It's not old.
although, I might add, although the styling is Marmite, he still looks new like the i8 does.
Yeah,
As in, it's not aged. Granted, if you don't like it, like I know neither of us are fans of the
No,
styling.
I personally don't like the styling.
However, it still looks like a brand new car.
Yeah.
Just not a particularly good looking one to my eye.
But you do see them knocking around. Somebody obviously likes them because they do buy them. And 15 grand for what is quite an expensive car new, and it's only 4 years old. What's the mileage on this one in particular? Does it say 9,885 miles?
Not bad.
So it's not bad, is it? For 4 years, he's barely moved.
I also might add as well, this one's a really good spec, but also the one thing I've always liked about the i3 is the interior.
Yeah, and the suicide doors. I quite like the suicide doors to get into the back.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. So it's quite airy on the inside as well, and there's quite nice use of... and what I've always liked is lots of different materials being used.
I think they're all recycled as well, aren't they?
So
They're all
like multiple fabrics and woods on the dash and on the seats and contrasting colours.
Yeah.
So I actually quite like interior wise, because I mean if you look at the suicide door cards, you can see all the different types of materials they have at play there. Again, quite a lot of them recycled.
Yeah.
So
the inside definitely better than the outside, which I suppose if you're driving it, the exterior is probably not that big of an issue.
Yeah.
If you want to go that. I say very green. This is just the electric one, so it doesn't have the optional little petrol engine you can stick in it. But again, this is going fully into the future. And for 15 grand, they will offer it you on hire purchase for £371 a month.
now,
You could afford that, really.
Here's the downside to it, though, because compared to the Zoe, there isn't all that much more practicality going on in there compared to the Zoe.
The boot's quite small as well.
Well, neither of them are big cars. This is a faster car.
Yeah, so it's 7.2 seconds to 60 compared to 11.2, so it's quite a bit quicker.
It's a top speed of 93 miles an hour. Again, it's irrelevant in the UK.
Yeah.
70s sort of your
I think
limit,
that also
so-
comes down to aerodynamics, because it's not the most aerodynamic car, is it, in the world? But it only has a battery range of 118 miles.
That's significantly
That is
less.
a lot less. Now, I know age is not on its side there, but...
Nevertheless, though, I think if you are not so fussed about brand snobbery, I think personally, if it was my money,
I'd get a Zoe.
I'd get the Zoe. It's a lot newer. Yes, it's not as fast in a straight line, but that doesn't really matter. 11.4 still isn't like...
No, it's not
horrific.
bad. It's not bad at all,
And
is it?
if the trade-off for that is a significant amount more range, well, I think it's worth it, in my opinion.
Yeah, and
Neither of
to be
them are
fair,
performance
no,
cars anyway.
It is actually cheaper as well as the Zoe.
Yeah.
The i3 is bang on 15 grand, and obviously I know the Zoe's £5 off, but I bet because it's from a main dealer, you can probably haggle a bit there. A bit more than the private dealers.
Okay.
Okay, so... this next one, this is obviously for the person who's not quite ready to switch. They sort of want to dip the toe in the pool and see what it could be like, because it does have a fully electric mode. It just has an engine to back it up. Mm-hmm. And that's the Golf GTE.
Yeah, a car we've discussed on the podcast before because we both like it.
Yeah.
It gives you good mileage. We went on Honest John a little while back and had a nosy at what mileage people got in the real world, and quite a lot. Some people got up to like 80 mpg.
Yeah, which you cannot complain about.
Well, exactly. If you're getting 70 plus, say, you really can't complain. That's a very optimized petrol unit, really.
Yeah. And I know it has the petrol help, but like you were saying when we did last discuss it, you could use the engine and whatever for the motorway just to cruise along and get your 70, 80 mpg, but then when you come into the city, you can just flick it over to electric mode and just waft in and not have to worry about any of the...
Because as you say, it does have 31 miles of range on just electric motors alone, which obviously 31 miles doesn't sound like a lot, but when you consider it is actually a fair way. It would certainly do either the city centre or town parts of most people's commutes.
Yeah.
So the
In and out.
as you say, the bits which are most uneconomical for a petrol engine, you can
Yeah.
handle just on the electric motors,
Yeah.
and recharge them again when you're at a place where it's more economical to run the petrol motor, like on a big fast A road or a motorway, for example.
Yeah. So this actual particular one, it's £14,745, which you are getting a lot of car for that money, considering there are a lot more than that new.
Yeah, this was very well spec'd as well, wasn't
It's
it?
a nice spec. It's got everything you want. It's got your gesture control little thing in the middle. It's got your touch screens. It's got your cruise controls.
It's got front and rear parking sensors.
Yeah, and it's only done 42,500 miles, which for a car that's 3 year old, I don't think that's too bad at all.
No, I don't think so either.
No. And it's a very, what I'd not consider a plain spec, but it's a safe spec.
Well, do you know what? This potentially suits the sort of person who may be interested in sort of involving themselves in electric technology.
Yeah.
Has an interest in performance, because obviously the GTE, it comes with the tartan seats and it is far more focused on performance than, say, the i3
Yeah.
and the Zoe that we looked at
And
just
it's
before.
a lot more of a car.
Yeah. I mean, and as you say, it packs a fair punch, doesn't it? I mean, what brake horsepower is this putting out?
This
So
particular one, there is a couple of actual options on the GTE, but this particular one's doing 148, so I don't think that's too bad. Plus your battery on the edge of that as well.
Yeah, exactly. When you consider that, it's fair shifts.
Yeah, I think the newer one's about 240 something. I think you can have it up to, but I don't think this particular.
Yeah, obviously we've gone for 14 grand. It's not a brand new car. At the
No.
end of this, it's a 16 plate.
It's still only 3 year old.
Yeah.
Which, again, I don't see a problem with. You're getting a lot of car for your money. It's got to say most options you could ever realistically want on a car.
Yeah.
And it's, well, everyone knows the Golf is just, it's a staple of the hatchback world, isn't it? It's one of the best sellers ever made.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
And so you can know you can trust it, and it's there for that. So, next on the list, this is one I thought I'd actually put a bit of not a spanner in the works as such, but it's a very much of a different type of car. So, again, bang on 15 grand. Again, 2016, but this time on a 66 plate, so slightly newer. For those outside the UK, 66 plate is from September the 1st till February the 28th, or unless it's a leap year, in the UK. So it goes from there. So this one is from, obviously, the end of 2016 into 2017.
Yeah, potentially it was registered in 2017.
Yeah, but it is a Mercedes-Benz C350E.
Yeah.
So it's the plug-in hybrid sort of estate version
Yes.
of the C-Class, which I think it's still the current generation, so it looks, again, like a new car.
Oh, yeah, it looks like it rolled out of the factory yesterday. No one would look at you twice and think that
No.
wasn't new.
This again comes down to badge, more sort of people who may want the badge.
Yeah.
Because, no offense to VW, but Mercedes is probably considered slightly more of a premium brand. Nothing wrong with VW at all. I prefer one than a Mercedes any day. But the interior on this is absolutely phenomenal. It's your full, as you'd get from Mercedes, all your leathers, all your gizmos, cruise controls, anything you want,
Yeah.
it has it. I'd like you to look at the performance on this, because it's a 2-litre petrol engine as well, with obviously the electric bit stuck on the side. So this will actually do a combined, it claims, of 134.5 mpg, but we know that's probably not realistic.
But however, you would be expecting something if you use the electric motors intelligently and you figure yourself out. I think you would be expecting 60 odd.
Yeah, well, I think the extra urban claimed economy is 60.1. I think that's probably the more realistic figure to be
I would agree.
to be looking at there. This one though, however, top speed 153.
Seriously,
That is
shit.
actually quick. 0 to 60 in 6.2 seconds. Again, quick, but it is touching nearly 300 horsepower at 289.
It's a very fast car.
Yeah. Annual tax on the car. So here in the UK, we do pay a tax to drive the car on the road, and it usually is based on emissions. Well, it is based on emissions, and this one has 0.
Yeah, you pay no tax.
Pay nothing on that for a 300 horsepower car that does 150 miles an hour.
However, there are downsides compared to the GTE. It only does 19 miles on the electric batteries alone.
Yeah, which is obviously less. That'll probably come down to weight as well.
And it's significantly less.
Yeah.
Really, when you're down to those numbers, that may not cover potentially the fully urban sort of driving that people might experience.
But you could do more. But I'd say this is probably more a better family car, given it's got the big estate boot. You can chuck literally anything in there, it'll fit probably without much of a hassle.
Yeah.
and it's you comfortably probably fit 5 people in it, whereas 5 people in the Golf can be a little bit of a squeeze.
Yeah, shoulder space is quite an issue if you've got 3 adults sat in the back, but I think that's the case with most cars. It's very rare to find a car where if you've got 3 fully grown adults in the back, shoulder space doesn't become a problem.
Yeah.
I actually quite like this because it's seriously quick piece of kit, but also extremely understated.
Yeah,
in design.
It's just this particular one is just a silver estate car.
Bit of a sleeper.
Yeah, complete sleeper. Like 6.2, that's pretty quick.
That is really quick.
And it actually is, again, in immaculate condition. You'd think it was new if you were just walking past this car.
I think that's a very sensible investment for someone who wants a family estate and they want a taste of future technology, potentially future-proofing themselves a little bit.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I would say
for 15 grand.
For 15 grand, I think that's a very reasonable purchase.
No. Now, right then, this is the fun bit. So this is the thing that probably me and you are more likely to consider coming up when we replace our cars. A very small budget and just get something that's going to be a laugh for maybe at the most a year. And
you're tidying over the gap.
Yeah. And even if you have to buy another one after, it's still only about 1,500 quid.
Our logic in this is that if for whatever reason we decide that we're going to change our cars before the electric/hydrogen revolution or whatever fully takes over, maybe while we're waiting for, say, solid state batteries to make their way into electric cars and really improve the range, and then, everything really starts swinging, why don't we just invest in a very small amount of money, have an absolute blast while we're doing it, and just wait for the new technology to come in, rather than spend 20 grand on, say, a new Fiesta ST and be left with basically very old school technology when we're coming to sell it later down the line. So that's where our thinking was on this.
And to be honest, it doesn't, for what you can get, I don't think it's too bad of an idea. Because like you say, if something does go wrong,
just get rid of it.
Scrap it and get another one.
Scrap it, and let's face it, your scrap value on it will be enough that you're going to actually earn back a bit of your money that you actually invested
exactly. Especially
on it.
if it's a runner.
Exactly, if it's a runner, exactly.
So the first one we did look at, so we set ourselves a budget of 1,500 quid.
Yeah.
Between 1,000 and 1,500 quid, and we're looking at what you can get. So for a bit of fun as well, so we actually got a car that'd be decent to drive. So the first one we got, 2002 BMW Z3.
Full GoldenEye spec.
Oh yeah, full GoldenEye spec in a nice light blue with black leather, decent enough alloys as well.
Yeah.
The car itself, obviously this is from 2002, so it's getting on for like 17-year-old.
Yeah.
Depending on when about in 2002 it was registered. I think it looks in really decent enough condition.
No visible signs of rust in the wheel arches, which is very impressive for a car this age, and frankly, on 128,000 miles. What I find quite amusing is that's actually very low mileage compared to a lot of the other Z3s that we were looking at in a similar price bracket.
Yeah, they were all up to like nearly 200,000 miles.
Yeah, so we'll have a quick nosy at the interior now. So
it's the actual picture shows it with a bit of bird muck on it, so that's not actually a mark. It's I know it is a bit of a scuff mark.
Bit of a scuff mark, but again,
Yeah, the alloy's looking mint condition.
It looks in decent condition to me.
Yeah.
And again, with the bit of the scuff mark, considering how much we've invested in the car, frankly, I would be willing to try and get that out with some paint I bought on eBay myself.
A bit of Teak-Cut even.
It doesn't matter, does it?
No,
You haven't invested enough to make it a problem.
So you've got a nice chrome silver gear stick. Very short.
Chrome throughout, actually.
Yeah. To be fair, the leather on the edge of the seats, it's half leather, half cloth, and the leather looks like it's quite new. It's not wrinkled. It's not
ripped or shredded.
Anything. It's got a proper analog clock.
Yeah, no, as you say, all the chrome around all of the dials as well.
Yeah,
very nice, very nice.
Yeah, not bad at all, to be honest. And for this one particular actually is not even 1,500 quid. This is 1,275 quid.
But if you notice here, obviously this one's 128,000 miles, and that's still 93,000 miles below average for the ones that they're selling.
Yeah, so we actually are looking on Auto Trader here, which I'm pretty sure is actually all over Europe now. But obviously, any other car roughly this age of this car you're looking at more over 200,000 miles.
Yeah, look, you'll notice this is a theme as we go through these cars. Just prepare to have extremely high milers.
Well, some of them aren't that bad. This one actually, this one in particular.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah, so this one again, this is probably a bit more of a wild card choice because if it was my actual money, I don't think I'd buy it.
No, neither would I.
Just on the basis of the reliability issues that are renowned at this. So it's an MGTF.
Mm-hmm.
actually were considered quite a good handling little
Yeah,
car.
I was about to say they are considered a good handling car. I believe that's why they're quite popular with racing.
Yeah.
To be honest, because you can pick them up for cheap money, and they're actually quite good cars in their own little way.
Yeah. Now, the one thing we were impressed with this one, so this is a 2003, so it's a year newer than the BMW. However, this does look immaculate.
It looks in.
There's-
I mean, there's little bits of rust here and there,
But that's on the actual metal door catch. It's not the bodywork itself. So I'd quickly unscrew that, screw another one back on. Probably £2 from Euro
Yep.
car parts, perhaps.
it's got a proper metal roof, which in the UK really matters.
Yeah.
In a lot of respects. If you're using this as your daily driver, as us two would, that would be extremely
Yeah.
valuable.
The seats, while they are cloth, that also means they're not ripped or torn or anything. It's just a cloth seat. so
Exactly.
no
Yeah.
wear like you get in leather. It's got a wooden steering wheel, which
Yeah.
is proper British. I know MGs, obviously, they are British. The bodywork on it looks absolutely immaculate.
It really does, doesn't it?
Yeah, absolutely immaculate. It's in silver. The alloys, again, look...
I mean, it looks like there's a couple of little scuffs here and there, but comparatively to some of the other ones we saw for a similar price, it looked in really good
Yeah.
nick.
And this is a 1.8, so it'd be slightly less power than the Beamer, which was 240, I think. So this is 134 brake horsepower.
It's enough.
Yeah, 0 to 60 in 8.2 and a top speed of 127.
Yeah.
More than enough. And also a nice little car to chuck around the country roads where we live, and you can have a laugh on it for £1,500.
Then exactly, and if it goes wrong, well,
Yeah, just bin it and get another one.
yeah, exactly.
And parts on these actually are dirt cheap because you can get them anywhere. Not this one's a bit of a
Bit of a stretch.
Bit of a
if I'm
stretch,
being honest.
bit of a wild card. This is the first time in a while actually we'll do this, but the for anybody watching on the video, I'm going to put a picture of the interior on because wow, they have done something to that. So this one, Audi TT from the year 2000,
Yeah.
1.8 engine. It claims 225 brake horsepower and 147 mile an hour top speed. And not 60 in 6.9 seconds, which obviously with this being 19 years old, probably some of them have gone.
Yeah, but still compared to some of the other cars we're looking at, which are of a similar age,
Yeah.
I mean, you're in the ballpark. Most of them have lost some of that performance that they rolled out
Of course,
factory.
yeah. And it's also done 107,000 miles, which again for a 19-year-old car is probably not that bad, but
No.
if it lasts a year, you've got a cheap car for a year. It's the interior that's bothering me slightly on this. While it's not in bad condition as such, it's just brave. It's like browny red leather with huge white stitches.
Yeah, the only bit that's noticeable as far as patina, shall we say, is the steering wheel, really.
Yeah, that's the only bit that looks more worn because it's at obviously it's normally black, but it's worn through to sort of the coloured bit underneath, the unpainted bit, which you get a £5 cover from Halfords and get rid of that. That's not too much of an issue. But good God, I don't know who's picked them seats. They are awful.
It's interesting, yeah.
It is, but that, in the terms of TTs, that actually was one of the better, particularly for mileage of that age anyway. And that's one's £1,490,
Yeah.
which again is not bad. Ultimate wildcard now, purely just on mileage alone, but this is a Mark III Mazda MX-5 from 2006. Personally, I do prefer the look of this than the new one. I know you prefer the newer one to this.
But you see, where my feeling is, if we're down to this kind of cash, I would rather get a Mark II. I prefer the styling of the Mark II to the Mark III if we're down on this cash, personally.
Yeah, and you get one with much less miles. It just wouldn't have the
Yeah.
equipment. So bear in mind, this does have everything on it. It's got a full dealer service history. It is MOT'd until next year, which in the UK is important.
Yeah.
It's got heated seats. It's got the roof looks in good condition. The paintwork looks great. The alloys are immaculate.
As a matter of fact, I might say as well that as far as the MOT is concerned, that is important when we're in this bracket for us, because we are looking at things that potentially we just want to blast for as cheap as possible, for thrills, for a very little amount of cash. So if we don't have to do the MOT until October 2020,
Yeah, and at which
well,
point you
great.
might
At which point I might just be getting rid of it anyway. Well, fair enough.
Yeah, you might as well. And I think obviously they are renowned for being quite reliable, these. So
Yes,
while
they
it
are.
has done 148,000 miles, well, nearly 149 if we're going to be specific, Do you think it's got any chance of going wrong? I think if it's had full service history from a dealer...
According to the Auto Trader sort of calculator, the 148,920 miles is nearly 76,000 miles above average for the cars on sale.
Of this age.
Yeah, hence why we're getting it such a good price.
Yeah, it's 1,490 quid, which is an absolute steal.
It's a steal for a Mark III.
But I do think, again, that mileage would crop up in people's minds.
Yeah.
But I genuinely don't think it'd go that wrong, given in fact it looks like it's been looked after very well.
Also, as you say, it got through the MOT.
Yeah.
So...
I mean, you can get dodgy MOTs. I'm not suggesting this person has, but you can.
Yeah, no, but let's take it on the value that it's been had a proper job done
properly
to
done.
it. Yeah.
Yeah. A 2-litre engine as well, which I don't think's too bad. So that's pumping you out at 160 horsepower.
Yeah, well, which again in a car this size is
it's enough.
It's more than enough,
mile an hour. So I think that while that is the wild card, I think I probably would again join you on a Mark II.
And I think if we're looking at the cars that we've seen up here, if I was going to go for one of the cheap ones, I would probably pump my money into the Z3. I know there's a little bit of a scuff on the door, but again, for the money that you're paying, the rest of it looks in really decent nick, to be honest.
I would also probably join you on that. The parts would worry me because I know they're expensive on these older Beamers, but I think I would just purely because it is a bit of a Bond spec car.
Well, again, there's this full GoldenEye.
Yeah, it is that spec, and also as well, it is cheaper again, so...
And also, you've not invested so much money that if it does go to pot in, say, a year's time,
that is a problem.
We go for scrap and try again.
Yeah. All right, then, just one final thing just before we wrap up. Out of all the cars we've discussed, and if you did have your 15 grand budget, you can also get the cheap ones within that budget, but which way do you think you'd go? Or which car do you think you'd buy?
I'm tempted to say Renault Zoe.
Okay.
As a brave choice, because I thought that was a really nice car, and that is essentially
it is brand new.
Yeah,
it is brand new.
Yeah. And I could walk away with that for 15 grand.
Yeah, you get your 3-year warranty, you wouldn't have to MOT it, you're tax free.
And I am prepped for the future.
Cars, and you are prepped for the future.
But my sensible head's telling me to go for the GTE.
You see mine, I'd get the Merc.
Yeah, so we by the sounds of it then, if we were investing up to 15 grand at the moment, both of us are looking at plug-in hybrids for now.
Yeah. Again,
so we're getting our taste of the future, but...
Yeah, I think I'd get the Merc for 15 grand.
Okay, so I think that's a good place to sort of wrap that up then, isn't it? Yeah.
Let us know the options that we've discussed, which you think you would choose, actually. That'd be interesting to know what you guys think. And we'll be back again next week with another topic. So again... All links to social media below. If you want us to discuss anything, as always, just let us know and we will do that for you. But we'll come back next week and we'll have another good topic for you.
Yep, no worries.
See you later. Bye-bye.